Your empathy is actively ruining your physical reality right now. Every single time you feel sorry for your own financial struggles, you are triggering a mechanical backlash from the universe that guarantees your continued poverty. You have been completely brainwashed by modern society into believing that empathy is a moral virtue. The teacher Neville Goddard understood that empathizing with a state of lack is actually a psychological crime. You were taught that feeling compassion for poverty makes you a good person. The exact opposite is true. When you empathize with your own poverty, you are actively commanding the universe to treat you like a permanent victim. Empathy is a biological glue that permanently attaches your consciousness to whatever you are observing. The law of assumption is a blind, mechanical force that perfectly mirrors the internal frequency you currently occupy. If your dominant internal state is the state of a compassionate victim, the universe has absolutely no choice but to continually provide you with situations that require even more compassion. The therapeutic industry and the mainstream spiritual community operate exactly like biological parasites. A parasite cannot survive if the host becomes completely healthy and independent. The industry requires you to remain in a perpetual state of almost being healed. They sell you endless courses and therapy sessions and spiritual retreats under the false promise that your financial breakthrough is just one more emotional release away. They have convinced you that money is a spiritual entity that judges your emotional purity. They have taught you that money will run away from you if you possess unhealed emotional wounds. You must observe the physical reality of the world to immediately recognize the absurdity of this concept. The physical world is entirely dominated by individuals possessing massive amounts of extreme generational wealth. If you analyze the psychological profiles of the billionaires and the global elite, you will not find emotionally pure individuals. You will find people who are deeply traumatized. You will find people who possess massive egos and severe personality disorders and profound emotional voids. These highly unhealed individuals control the vast majority of the resources on this planet. They do not spend their mornings crying over their childhood wounds in an attempt to manifest a higher frequency. They do not care about their limiting beliefs. They simply demand the resources, and the blind machine of the universe obeys their command. You must understand the immoral nature of money. Money does not have a soul. Money does not have a conscience. Money does not care if you were mistreated when you were a child. Money does not care if you are a kind person or a cruel person. Money is a dead mechanical servant that simply flows to the path of least psychological resistance. The billionaires of the world do not have psychological resistance to wealth because they assume they are entitled to it. They might have massive psychological resistance to love or happiness or emotional peace, but they have absolutely zero resistance to the accumulation of capital. Their trauma does not block their money because they have entirely separated their emotional state from their financial state. You are currently doing the exact opposite. You have entangled your emotional trauma with your bank account. You have created an artificial rule in your mind that says you cannot hold millions of dollars until you are emotionally perfect. You are the only person enforcing this rule. The universe is not judging you. The universe is simply waiting for you to assume the state of wealth, but you are too busy assuming the state of the eternal patient. You must permanently sever the connection between your emotional history and your financial destiny. You must learn to look at your past traumas with a cold and psychopathic apathy. Your past does not exist anywhere except in the electrical impulses of your brain. It is a dead recording. You are allowing a dead recording to dictate your current physical reality. The teacher Neville Goddard provided the exact architectural blueprint for escaping this biological trap. Neville Goddard never instructed his students to analyze their past or to heal their psychological wounds. He understood that the human experience is composed of infinite predetermined states of consciousness. He compared these states of consciousness to physical rooms in a massive mansion. There is a room of extreme poverty, and there is a room of extreme wealth. There is a room of sickness, and there is a room of total dominance. Right now, your consciousness is occupying the room of the traumatized worker. You are sitting inside this dark room, and you are trying to clean the floors and paint the walls. You are trying to make the room of poverty a more comfortable place to live by healing your emotions. This is a complete waste of your vital energy. You cannot transform the state of poverty into the state of wealth. The state of poverty will always be the state of poverty. Your only correct action is to stand up and walk completely out of the room. You must withdraw your conscious attention from the broken identity and relocate your attention entirely into the room of extreme wealth. You do not bring your baggage with you. You do not bring your past traumas into the new state. You simply leave the old version of yourself sitting in the dark room to die of absolute starvation. When you attempt to heal your old identity, you are keeping it alive. You are performing CPR on a corpse. Every time you talk about your limiting beliefs, you are breathing oxygen into a dead version of yourself. You must become incredibly ruthless with your own internal narrative. You must commit psychological murder against the person you used to be. The new identity of the universal heir does not require any healing because the heir has never experienced lack. The heir was born into absolute possession. When you assume the state of the heir, you are not repairing your past. You are literally stepping into a parallel timeline where the past trauma is completely irrelevant. This transition requires a profound level of arrogance. You must develop a supreme arrogance toward your own psychological problems. When a memory of failure or a feeling of unworthiness arises in your mind, you must not explore it. You must not journal about it. You must look at the feeling with supreme boredom and dismiss it entirely. You treat the feeling like a peasant begging for your attention outside the gates of your palace. You do not invite the peasant inside to discuss their problems. You simply ignore them until they wander away. Your unhealed emotions only have power because you respect them. You treat your trauma as if it is a profound and important part of your identity. You must strip your trauma of its importance. You must view your emotional wounds as boring and insignificant details that have absolutely zero impact on your ability to command extreme wealth. This requires a complete reversal of how you perceive the three-dimensional world. The physical world around you is the fossilized evidence of your past assumptions. Your current bank account and your current living situation are simply the dead echoes of the time when you believed you were broken. When you look at your empty bank account, you are not looking at the present moment. You're looking at ancient history. If you react emotionally to this ancient history, you are dragging the dead past into the present moment and forcing the universe to recreate it in the future. The people who obsess over healing are constantly reacting to the fossils. They look at their negative circumstances and they immediately assume they have more internal work to do. They assume they must have a hidden block that caused the negative circumstance. This is a fatal error in logic. The negative circumstance is just the machine emptying its old cache of data. It is the final shadow of the dead state leaving your reality. You must observe the negative circumstance with total emotional flatness. You do not try to fix the circumstance, and you absolutely do not try to fix yourself because of the circumstance. You maintain your position on the throne of extreme wealth. You observe the chaos of the three-dimensional world with the quiet confidence of an architect who knows the building is already finished. You must fully surrender the illusion of physical control. You must let the blind machine of the universe do the dirty work of rearranging the physical matter. Your only job is to firmly occupy the psychological reality of the end result. You are the dictator, and the universe is the army. The dictator does not go down to the battlefield and dig trenches. The dictator does not concern themselves with the logistical details of moving troops. The dictator simply points at the map and demands victory. The massive and complex systems of the military execute the command. The quantum field operates as your personal military force. It is waiting for your absolute command, but you are currently confusing the troops by sending them messages of weakness and healing. You are broadcasting a signal of continuous preparation instead of a signal of final completion. The universe cannot deliver extreme wealth to a consciousness that is perpetually preparing to receive it. You must stop preparing. You must stop getting ready to be rich. You must assume that you are already holding the maximum amount of wealth your mind can comprehend. You must force your nervous system to accept the heavy and boring reality of total financial security right now. The moment you completely abandon the project of fixing yourself is the exact moment the universe receives the clear command to materialize your fortune. To successfully transition into the state of extreme wealth, you must understand the dark mechanics of psychological starvation. Your current identity is not a philosophical concept. It is a living biological entity existing within the neural pathways of your nervous system. This entity was born from your past traumas and your past financial failures. This internal parasite feeds entirely on your conscious attention. Every single time you think about your need to heal, you are actively feeding this entity. When you analyze your limiting beliefs, you are giving this parasite the exact oxygen it needs to survive and to continue controlling your physical reality. When you sit down with a journal to write about your childhood wounds, you are preparing a massive banquet for the version of you that is permanently broken. You must become a cold and calculated assassin of your own past. You cannot negotiate with the poor version of yourself. You cannot heal the traumatized version of yourself because that version is fundamentally constructed out of poverty and trauma. If you remove the trauma, that specific identity ceases to exist. Therefore, your ego will fight to keep the trauma alive in order to ensure its own survival. The only way to destroy this internal parasite is to completely and violently starve it of your attention. You must abruptly withdraw your consciousness from the identity of the broken person. When a memory of your past financial struggles attempts to enter your conscious mind, you must look at it with absolute deadness. You must refuse to give it even a single drop of emotional reaction. You must treat your own thoughts of inadequacy with supreme indifference. This process of psychological starvation will cause your ego to panic. Your ego will scream that you are being irresponsible and that you are actively ignoring your deep psychological problems. Your body might even generate symptoms of severe anxiety to force you to pay attention to the old wounds. You must ignore the screaming of your ego with the exact same apathy you use to ignore the sound of the wind outside your window. You must watch the old identity suffer and fade away without offering it any comfort or any therapy. You are literally abandoning the sick version of yourself by the side of the road and driving away in a new vehicle of extreme wealth. This requires a level of ruthlessness that normal society will tell you is toxic. Normal society is completely addicted to the romance of suffering and healing. You must reject the values of normal society if you wish to command the blind forces of the universe. You must deeply understand that the physical world you see around you is entirely composed of dead matter. The three-dimensional reality you currently occupy possesses absolutely no independent life force. It is a massive mechanical mirror that is permanently delayed. When you look at your empty bank account, you are not looking at the truth of your current existence. You are looking at a fossilized record of the person you used to be. The numbers on your digital screen are nothing more than the dead echoes of your previous internal assumptions. If you react to those numbers with biological fear or psychological anxiety, you're committing a severe error in the manifestation process. You are taking your precious living energy and you are injecting it directly into a corpse. You are breathing life into the fossil. By reacting emotionally to your current lack of money, you are forcing the blind machine of the universe to resurrect the dead state of poverty and project it into your future timeline. You must learn to interact with the physical world with a profound sense of emotional detachment. You must walk through your daily life as if you are walking through a museum of ancient history. When a financial bill arrives in the mail, you do not experience the biological panic of a hunted prey animal. You look at the piece of paper and you recognize it as a boring artifact from a dead timeline. You pay the bill mechanically if you can, but you absolutely refuse to let the transaction penetrate your psychological armor. You maintain the rigid mental posture of a billionaire who is mildly annoyed by a minor administrative error. You must practice the dark art of sensory gaslighting. Your eyes will tell you that you are poor. Your ears will hear your family complaining about the economy. You must override these sensory inputs with cold dictatorial logic. You must convince your brain that the physical world is experiencing a temporary glitch while it updates to your new massive financial reality. You do not try to fix the glitch through physical effort. You simply observe the glitch with heavy boredom and wait for the system to correct itself. This level of absolute emotional detachment requires a complete override of your natural biological instincts. Right now, your nervous system is likely fighting the extreme concepts I'm explaining to you. Your primitive brain is terrified of abandoning the familiar state of poverty and trauma because that broken state is the only environment it knows how to safely navigate. Your brain prefers familiar misery over unknown wealth. If you feel a physical resistance in your body right now, you must pause your internal dialogue. You are currently under attack by your own biological programming, and you must neutralize this threat immediately. I have designed a specific identity override protocol to forcefully shut down this biological resistance. Go down to the pinned comment below this video right now, read the protocol, and execute the command to permanently sever the contract with your broken identity. Do not attempt to continue listening to this audio until you have completed the override. Your logical mind will only sabotage the rest of the programming if you do not force it into submission first. Now that your internal biological resistance is neutralized, we must establish the correct hierarchy between your consciousness and the quantum field. The quantum field is the infinite ocean of unformed matter and energy that responds exclusively to your dominant state of assumption. It is the invisible heavy machinery that constructs your physical reality behind the scenes. For your entire life, you have been treating this machinery as if it is your master. You have been begging the quantum field to heal your inner child and to provide you with basic resources. You must completely and permanently reverse this pathetic dynamic. The quantum field is not your master, and it is certainly not your therapist. It is a blind and obedient military force waiting for a dictatorial command. You are the supreme commander of this universal force. A supreme commander does not go down into the mud to dig trenches. A supreme commander does not ask the foot soldiers how the battle will be won. The commander simply points to the final objective and demands absolute victory. The massive and complex logistics of the military operation are handled entirely by the subordinate officers and the automated systems. You must adopt this exact same level of arrogant delegation in your manifestation process. You must stop trying to figure out how the extreme wealth will arrive in your bank account. You must stop trying to manually manipulate the physical people and the dense physical circumstances in your life. When you attempt to force the three-dimensional world to change through extreme physical effort, you are acting like a supreme commander who is trying to dig a massive trench with a small plastic spoon. It is a complete waste of your immense creative power, and it demonstrates a fundamental lack of trust in your own universal army. You must let the blind machine of the universe do the dirty work. Your only responsibility is to occupy the psychological throne of the final result. You must assume the heavy feeling of having extreme wealth right now, and you must absolutely refuse to move from that mental position. The universe possesses infinite invisible pathways and complex human networks that your limited primitive brain cannot possibly comprehend. The universe can move powerful people across the globe to serve your financial interests. It can collapse massive corporate institutions to route vast sums of money directly into your control. It can orchestrate a bizarre sequence of chaotic daily events that perfectly result in your absolute financial dominance. But the universe will only execute these massive global operations if you remain perfectly still on your psychological throne. If you panic about your physical reality and leave the throne to try and help the universe, you immediately cancel the entire operation. You must cultivate a deep and heavy laziness regarding the physical manifestation of your wealth. This is not the depressive laziness of a defeated worker. This is the calculated and powerful laziness of a supreme ruler who knows that thousands of invisible servants are currently working tirelessly on their behalf. You do not check on the servants because you possess the absolute arrogance of knowing that they will not fail you. This supreme arrogance is the ultimate weapon against your unhealed trauma and your limiting beliefs. You must begin to look down on your own psychological problems. You must view your past emotional wounds with a profound sense of elitist disdain. When your mind attempts to remind you of how much you suffered in your childhood, you must treat that memory as if it is a completely insignificant detail. You are a sovereign entity, holding the power to command the fundamental fabric of reality. The fact that someone hurt your feelings or rejected you 10 years ago is completely irrelevant to your current status as the supreme architect of the universe. You must stop honoring your trauma. You must stop treating your emotional pain as if it is a sacred object that requires deep therapeutic analysis and profound respect. Your pain is exceptionally boring. Your limiting beliefs are incredibly boring. The only thing that is interesting about you is your supreme ability to dictate the future. When you adopt this attitude of extreme arrogance toward your own brokenness, you instantly strip the brokenness of its biological power. You drain the life force out of the trauma, and you redirect all of that massive psychological energy into the assumption of extreme wealth. The universe instantly recognizes this massive shift in your internal power structure. It sees that you are no longer a fragile patient, begging the sky for a magical cure. It sees that you have violently claimed your position as the absolute master of the material world. The physical reality has absolutely no choice but to bow down and deliver the exact resources you have commanded. We must now address the final psychological barrier that will attempt to pull you back into the cycle of poverty. This barrier is the profound biological addiction to the act of searching. For your entire life, your nervous system has been programmed to search for answers. You have been addicted to reading new books and attending new seminars and finding new therapeutic methods to heal your imaginary brokenness. When you finally assume the state of extreme wealth and you permanently drop the identity of the traumatized patient, you will experience a massive psychological withdrawal. Your brain will flood your body with a terrifying sense of emptiness. You will feel an overwhelming boredom because you suddenly have absolutely no internal problems to solve. You have spent decades defining your personality by your struggles and your traumas. When you abruptly murder that struggling identity, your ego will panic in the silence of your new reality. The ego hates silence. The ego demands conflict and healing and continuous progress. You must understand that this sudden feeling of emptiness is not a mistake. This profound boredom is the ultimate biological proof that you have successfully entered the state of the universal heir. You do not feel an intense burning desire to acquire things that you already possess. You do not spend hours researching how to fix a problem that has already been completely resolved. The true state of extreme wealth is a state of heavy and silent completion. You must learn to fall deeply in love with this boring silence. You must allow the emptiness to wash over you without attempting to fill it with new spiritual techniques or new emotional dramas. As you stabilize this new frequency of silent completion, you will inevitably collide with the social architecture of the three-dimensional world. You exist within a society that is entirely addicted to the concept of psychological healing. Your friends and your family members are deeply invested in their own personal narratives of trauma and recovery. They use their emotional wounds as a form of social currency. They bond with each other by complaining about their limiting beliefs and their financial blockages. When you interact with these individuals, they will naturally attempt to pull you back into their frequency of endless recovery. They will ask you about your healing journey. They will invite you to discuss your childhood wounds. They will attempt to project their own financial anxieties onto your physical reality. You must deploy an impenetrable shield of social apathy against these attempts. You cannot save these people from their own biological programming. If you attempt to explain that they do not need to heal, they will aggressively attack you because their entire identity is dependent on their brokenness. You must treat their conversations about financial struggle as if they are a highly contagious biological virus. When they complain about the economy or their lack of money, you must look at them with a completely blank expression. You must stop empathizing with their poverty immediately because your empathy is actively ruining your own reality. Empathy is a highly dangerous frequency when it is directed at a state of lack. If you empathize with their financial suffering, you are literally downloading their poverty into your own subconscious mind. You are sacrificing your own empire of wealth just to make them feel comfortable in their misery. This total separation from the disease of seeking brings us to the ultimate concept taught by Neville Goddard. This is the concept of the Sabbath. The modern spiritual industry has completely destroyed the true meaning of the Sabbath. They have turned it into a day of physical rest or a period of emotional self-care. That is a pathetic misinterpretation. The true Sabbath is a permanent psychological state of absolute mental deadness regarding your specific desire. It is the exact moment when you finally stop trying to manifest your wealth and you simply accept the wealth as a permanent, non-negotiable fact. When you first discover the law of assumption, you use deliberate techniques to force your conscious mind into the state of the wish fulfilled. You might visualize a specific scene, or you might repeat a specific phrase to break the heavy programming of your old identity. These techniques are necessary tools for the initial psychological takeover, but you cannot use these manual tools forever. If you are still performing aggressive manifestation techniques every single day, you are continually proving to your subconscious mind that you do not believe the internal work is finished. If you are still trying to manifest the money, it means you do not have the money. The Sabbath is the exact opposite of trying. The Sabbath is the heavy realization that the transaction is completely finalized. If a massive global bank transfers $10 million into your account and you receive the official confirmation documents, you do not sit in your room and visualize receiving the money. You do not stand in front of a mirror and affirm that you are wealthy 50 times a day. You completely drop all of your frantic efforts and you enter a state of profound peace. You have the legal confirmation in your hand and the entire process is completely over. The psychological Sabbath is the exact internal equivalent of holding those signed confirmation documents. You reach a point of such heavy certainty that the desire to manifest the money completely evaporates from your conscious awareness. You literally cannot force yourself to care about the manifestation process anymore. The topic of extreme wealth becomes incredibly boring to you because it is a completely solved equation. When you enter this true state of the Sabbath, you cause a massive disruption in the fabric of space and time. Time is a biological illusion created by the worker class to measure their own suffering and to calculate their healing process. The traumatized mind needs time because it believes it must slowly transition from a state of sickness to a state of health. The traumatized mind believes it must slowly earn money over decades of hard work. When you completely abandon the identity of the traumatized worker, you simultaneously abandon the rules of linear time. You stop looking backward at your dead past, and you stop waiting anxiously for your future. You compress all of your conscious power into the absolute certainty of the present moment. The quantum field is a blind machine that operates outside of time. It only understands the frequency you are emitting right now. For your entire life, you have been confusing the quantum machine by transmitting a signal of constant preparation. You have been telling the universe that you are getting ready to be wealthy as soon as you finish healing your trauma. The universe has perfectly mirrored this instruction by keeping you in a permanent state of getting ready. The exact moment you step into the Sabbath and drop the need to heal, you send a singular, undeniable command to the machine. You announce that you are completely finished. The machine immediately recognizes this absolute finality. It realizes that you are no longer negotiating with your past. It sees that you have violently claimed your position on the throne of extreme wealth. Because the universe has absolutely no choice but to obey a dictatorial command, it will immediately begin to collapse the three-dimensional reality to match your new internal baseline. You will witness the physical matter of your life reorganizing itself with terrifying speed and precision. Massive financial opportunities will suddenly materialize out of thin air. Unexpected sums of money will flow into your control through channels you never even considered. The people and the institutions holding your wealth will be mechanically forced to release those resources to you. When this sudden influx of extreme wealth occurs, you must absolutely maintain your psychopathic apathy. You must never act surprised by your own financial success. Surprise is the emotional signature of someone who did not expect to win. A powerful king is never surprised when his loyal servants obey his direct orders. You must receive these massive financial resources with the cold mechanical indifference of someone who is simply collecting what is legally theirs by universal right. You must look at the millions of dollars rapidly entering your life, and you must view them as boring structural components of your new reality. You are not lucky, and you are not specially blessed by a higher power. You are the supreme architect of your reality, and the blind machine is simply executing your final blueprint. You must treat the money as a dead mechanical servant that exists solely to facilitate your physical existence. You do not worship the money, and you do not fear losing the money because you know you are the ultimate source of the command. The era of digging through your own psychological garbage is permanently over. You have successfully murdered the patient that lived inside your nervous system, and you have resurrected the true sovereign entity of your infinite consciousness. You now completely understand that the journey of healing is a massive trap designed for those who do not know how to operate the hidden levers of reality. You will never again trade your vital life force for therapeutic sessions that only validate your limitations. You will never again allow your primitive nervous system to experience the pathetic anxiety of the broken individual. You have finally assumed the ultimate throne. The infinite subconscious mind has already prepared the entire vast kingdom for your arrival, and you have finally accepted the heavy keys to the vault. The universal testament is officially signed, and the extreme inheritance is permanently yours. You must now seal this new reality into the dense physical dimension by performing one final act of psychological dominance. This specific physical action is not a desperate plea to the universe, and it is certainly not a statement of emotional gratitude. It is a direct written command to solidify your new biological baseline in the material world. Scroll down to the comment section of this video right now. You will not write a long paragraph about your past traumas. You will not explain your current financial difficulties to anyone. You will type exactly 6 specific words to confirm your new supreme status and to permanently destroy your old identity. Type the exact phrase, "I am immune to poverty." Do not add any other words or emotional expressions. By typing this cold, dictatorial command, you are driving a permanent neurological stake into the dense ground of the physical world. You are publicly declaring that you will never empathize with lack again.